What is up, guys? I think it is safe to say that spring is officially here, and in lieu of that, I want to change up the pace a little, moving out of the garage and into the driver's seats of these cars. To start things off, I'd like to introduce my daily driver project car. It is a 2006 Mazda RX-8 Shinka edition. These cars are downright an overlooked bargain right now. I picked this particular example up from the original owner with only 22,000 miles on the clock. The car is extremely clean and is barely even broken in. I've always had a thing for the RX-8 and have pictured myself having one for a daily on numerous occasions. The looks of it are completely unique. There are no other cars on the road that look like it. I feel like they represent the end of the mechanical era before cars became too complicated with gadgets, in a time when Mazda was damn proud of the rotary engine. Hell, there are even rotors implemented everywhere in the design of this car. The RX-8 is powered by a revised version of the 13B REW called the Renesis. In stock form, it outputs 238 horsepower from 1.3 liters. The most significant changes for this motor are that the peripheral exhaust ports were scrapped in favor of side exit exhaust ports out of the irons for noise reduction and improved emissions. This was also the highest compression factory rotary engine at 10-to-1. Made it to a 6-speed manual gearbox and a Torsen limited slip differential out the back, combined with a 9,000 RPM redline. It has all the fundamentals of a proper sports car. This car is 100% bone stock, and the goal is to build my ideal daily driver out of it. Something that is comfortable and easy to live with on a daily basis, but still has sports car reflexes and can be assholed around when the mood strikes. The RX-8 combines a wonderful blend of these characteristics, but like all cars, it is built to a price point and leaves plenty of room for improvement. Going forward, we are going to focus on reliability modifications, developing the suspension, seeing what we can pull out of this power plant naturally aspirated, and some aesthetic modifications for extra ricer cred. So enough talk. Let's get this thing out on the road for some initial impressions. So I moved into this car as my new replacement daily driver, coming from my 2001 Corvette Z06. Now, immediately off the bat, there's two very noticeable differences. The first one is this car has nowhere near the amount of torque that the Corvette had. The second one is that this car is a much higher quality feeling and well-built car overall. I won't fault the Corvettes for its cheaper interior, because at the time that car was a serious kick-ass rape machine for the money, and this car is not that. This is a different car. I think what Mazda really set out to do with this was to provide a nice handling bliss and just overall pleasurable car to drive, and that's exactly like what this is. Think of it in rough terms as a big Miata with like Grand Touring-esque features. So just to give an example, from a speed perspective, now this is a little bit uphill here, but this is we'll go down to 3,000 RPM. If I put my foot to the floor, it's slow, and then about 6,000, engine comes to life, 9,000 RPM, and now I'm in the power band, and it's moving pretty good. I wouldn't say that this car is terribly slow, especially for a daily driver. There is a little bit to be desired for the torque down low. Mazda put a 6-speed manual transmission in this, and they geared it pretty well overall. The gearing is shorter, and it's spaced appropriately for the engine. So getting up to speed in day-to-day traffic isn't that bad. I've driven other cars, like for instance an S2000, which it's a little bit more daunting to get up to speed. However, the S2000 is actually a faster car than this.
when you put them heads up. So it's just interesting the balance there. The interior of this car is a lovely, lovely, lovely place to be. I've always loved the interior of the RX-8. The dashboard layout and gauge faces are very, it reminds me of like a very modern 90s car, but before the dash designs got really crazy like they are today, where they have a bunch of shit plastered all over the place and weird grooves and cubbies and pockets, and they've gotten a little bit out of control. So it's simple, but it's like elegant at the same time. A lot of the controls feel very quality, but you could see where they kind of chinsed out on some things, because again, it's still a Japanese sports car. It's gonna kind of come through here with a little bit of speed. 4th gear. It's a very, very smooth engine car. Think of like almost like an electric car, but you know that internal combustion is happening. And I really like that about it. From a terms of like a daily driver, this car does not beat you up at all. The controls are very easy to operate and manipulate. The gear throw is very soft. I almost wish it was a little bit more direct feeling. Oh, should probably slow it down a little bit. The shifter is a little bit soft. It's in the turret, but like it doesn't feel direct and intentional like some of the better gearboxes. I'm not gonna fault it though, because for a car that you would drive every day, it doesn't tire you out. The steering is nicely weighted. Excuse me, Mr. DSM Broken. The steering is nicely weighted. It's an electric rack. It provides wonderful feedback at your fingertips, and this car tells you what's going on, and that's one of the things that I like. Even though it's a more modern car, it's still very communicative. And as you approach the limit, this car has a very slight understeer push to it, and it's a very safe car to kind of explore corners and go fast without having to worry about anything stupid happening. Some cars are a lot more edgier, and they get upset under uneven surfaces in the road and undulations, but this car, it just soaks up bumps tremendously, and it's a little bit body rollish like most Mazdas are, but it doesn't do anything weird, and I love that about it. And you could just you can change the balance under braking very easily. I love that. This car almost feels like it has a decent amount of rearward brake bias, and it's one of the, oh. Thank you. Probably came up on him a little bit quickly. It's a car that you can easily manipulate the brake balance with, and that's something, or easily manipulate the balance upon the brakes, and that's just something that I absolutely love in a sports car. Some cars, they just induce a lot of push on their braking. What's this guy doing here? But this car doesn't do that. As you approach the limit, you feel it in the steering wheel as the front tires start to give out grip a little bit. And it's very easy to keep the car right there. And then if you want to change the balance into like an oversteer situation, you could just apply a little bit more throttle. Yes, you need some momentum to do it because you don't have just the download torque or all-out power, or you can apply some brakes and you can get the rear end rotating upon braking, and that's a wonderful thing. And then once the car goes into a full-on oversteer situation, the balance is just beautiful, and counter steering and like kind of keeping the car in a graceful slide is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Mazda did a fantastic job setting up the suspension on this car. You know how in the FD RX-7, which is my utmost favorite car, how it's talked about now for its legendary handling and all its wonderfulness that Mazda engineered into it. It didn't sell too well during its production years in the States from 93 to 95, but after production like kind of ceased, people started to really appreciate the car and the whole package that it offered. I hate to say it, but out of the box, yes, this doesn't produce the all-out mechanical grip that the RX-7 does, but the balance and behavior at the limit is definitely sweeter in the RX-8 than it is the FD RX-7. And it pains me to say that, but it really is. This is definitely one of the best handling factory cars I've ever driven. It really is a thing to behold. So the body, like I said, is there's a little bit of body roll. The suspension, like most Mazdas, is a little bit more softly sprung. One of the things I want to address is tackle the suspension a little bit and go with a stiffer spring rate. Make the car a little bit faster to react and a little bit more dynamic, which is what I like. But yeah, I mean, for a daily driver, this overall package just works pretty well. And one of the other benefits of it, which it's like one of those double-edged sword things. So I've talked about this before, when I was dailying the Vet, the torque that car has down low, from when you put your foot down to the floor and it just goes, really kind of ruins other cars for you. I don't have a lot of big torquey cars. Even like my FD RX-7, which the turbo one, which makes 417 at the wheels, which is about almost 80 horsepower more than what my Vet was making. But because the Vet has so much more torque down low, it made the FD feel fast. Getting into a car like this or an S2000 or like even the BMW Z4M, they felt slow. So having not been driving a car with bigger torque like that and something with anemic torque like this, my sensations for speed have been kind of dialed back a little bit and everything feels more normal. So when I get into those cars, they're more enjoyable to drive again. So in a way, this kind of works out well in that regard. And it doesn't ruin the other cars. And when I get into the other cars, like even the ITB Miata, which is still a faster car than this, it makes me enjoy it that much more. So it's, like I said, it's like kind of one of those double-edged swords. Like I wish I had a little bit more torque on tap to like kind of be able to jab the gas and make the rear rotate under power. But at the same time, it makes me appreciate driving the cars that much more. Going back to the interior a little bit on this, I love the factory shift knob. It's rotor shaped. There's actually rotor accents everywhere in this car, from the cutouts in the seats to the hood to the wheels. Mazda was like really proud of the rotary at those times, and I think that's such a cool thing. It's really a shame that they've really kind of abandoned the development of the rotary engine and, you know, kind of hate it now. It seems like, as they've talked about bringing an RX-9 to production many times, but it always just ends up being a rumor. I really like the interior colors for the backlighting. It's an amberish red color. You can actually change the gauges over to white and red, but to me it looks off because the center console is all like that reddish amber, so I leave everything matching. It kind of it's reminiscent of an FD RX-7. FD is a little bit more on the amber side, but it's a nice touch. There's piano black accents everywhere, which kind of give the car a little bit more of an upscale feel. And there's metal touch points in the e-brake button, the door handles, and even on the tip of the shift knob, which kind of give everything a little bit more of a solid quality feel, and I really appreciate that. The seats, while I'm not a fan of them, I'm not a fan of the color, I should say, but the seats are actually rather lovely. They have adequate side bolstering and enough hip bolstering to hold you in place where you don't have to like support yourself too much, but they're very comfortable for a daily driver. If I had to nitpick them a little bit, I wish that they sat a pinch lower. I typically like to sit a little bit lower where I have to look over the hood. You're a little bit higher in this car, but I still have, for a car that has a moonroof, I still have a good, I don't know, 5 inches or so from my head to the roof. So it's not terrible. It's just kind of like right there. I don't feel there's like an immediate need to change them. So let's go over here. Got a guy coming. So I'm gonna put the car through this section of turns right here, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on. We'll start in second gear. Just go. So this is very bumpy right here, and all my other cars actually get upset and come off the ground and I get wheel spin, but this car just soaks them right up. I'm gonna be aggressive on the braking here. Pitching the car in, and because there's not a lot of torque, I could be very aggressive, flat footing it to the floor for the gas. Rotating the car on the brakes, and it just takes it. Little lock up, and there's that balance right there. You could just kind of hold it. Now I don't want to go wide because I don't want to go into the other lane, but the car gets right to that limit where it starts to push a little bit, and as you saw, just lifting off of the gas, I got a little bit of rotation, and then applying throttle, I was able to balance it back out. And that's just a wonderful thing about this car, is it really is a lovely car to drive on the street. So it's a great dual purpose car. Unlike all my other Japanese sports cars, the interior on this is very quiet, and I love that. It's a big change to have, and the car is very comfortable for long trips. Combine that with the ease of effort for operating all the controls, and the very silky smoothness of the motor. It's a nice, pleasant car for longer trips. Now, I've said this before, and I say it again. I love two-door sports cars. So this is a great compromise because it offers me more cargo room, and I even have a back seat where I could fit 2 adults, and they won't be miserable. But it still looks like a two-door because it has the suicide doors. So it's kind of like a great in-between car in that regard. The trunk space is adequate too. I think the measurement is always putting a set of golf clubs in there, which I can. I don't golf. I golf once a year with my company for this vendor outing, but it's more to kind of go out there, have some beers, smoke some cigars, and be an idiot. But I am able to fit a bag of clubs back there, no problem, plus some other crap. Plus, if you need some extra room, you could put stuff in the back seats. Transporting a set of tires is not the easiest because just because of the way it is a coupe still in regards to where the separation between the back seat and the trunk is. So I still when I move tires and wheels, I put them into my truck. But if I had to nitpick, I mean, yeah, gas mileage isn't the greatest. You know, rotaries are thirsty engines. I just kind of settled with a long time ago that I'd rather pay a couple extra dollars every year. Well, I shouldn't say a couple extra. It probably works its way out to about an extra $800 to $1,000 in operating costs each year in gas to have a car that is very enjoyable to drive on a daily basis. So the trade-off is I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I daily drove my Z4M, and that got about 16 average, 60 miles per gallon average, both with like some aggressive driving, highway and city. RX-8's about the same, and the nice thing about the RX-8 is like gas mileage doesn't suffer that much more when you floor it more. I mean, if you're on it all the time, like there's nothing you could do. Any car, the gas mileage is gonna suffer, but the RX-8 typically ranges between like 16 to 20. If you do more highway driving, you can get closer to 20, but like around town, street, in back roads and stuff, like I get 16 to 18. More like maybe 15, 14 if I'm flooring it a lot, which is not like, it is what it is. It's not terrible, but the gas mileage trade-off. I just kind of, a long time ago, I just said, yeah, I'm not going to worry about this sort of stuff anymore. So we'll take the car through this turn right here. Didn't mean to come up on that guy that fast, but I wanted to show you guys just the ease of getting the car to the limit, and it's not scary. And that's like probably the best thing about this car. It is so easy to just bring the car up to that limit and then keep it there. Man, everybody's letting me by. I really don't drive like this. I'm losing daylight, and I'm just trying to show you guys what the car is like where there's not too much traffic. Don't think that I drive like an asshole all the time, because I really don't. I'm just trying to give you guys a demonstration to see what the car is like. So, oh man. But that's it. I'm not gonna drive like a maniac anymore because I'm in a residential area, and that's it. So, given that, that is the first initial driving impression. So you guys can kind of see how the car has a little bit more roll, and it's softly sprung, and it gives us a good baseline to go forward with to make improvements to it. So there's going to be two parts to this build, and it's the reliability. We're going to do some things to make reliability a little bit better and kind of debunk some of the rotary myths, and show that it could be a very reliable daily driver. And then the second part is taking what Mazda has done, which they've already done a wonderful job, and just kind of improving upon that a little bit more. So we want to throw a little bit more power at it, and just kind of make the suspension dynamics a little bit more sharper. And I think the overall package, which I hope, because I don't want to get to that end result and be disappointed, but I'm pretty confident that the overall result of all that will be a wonderful daily, and honestly be like the perfect daily for me. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this initial review. And if you have any questions or comments and you'd like to know a little bit more about the car, feel free to leave them in the section below. I will do my best to answer them. As always, thank you very much for tuning in and watching, and I will leave you with that in this beautiful view of the sun setting. So, till next time, done.